show. And as a matter of courtesy, please go take off the gloves. Emergency exits here. Okay, so guys, thanks for coming. Really good, impressive turnout. All I want to do is just talk to you a little bit about what we do, why we do it, and how you can get the most benefit from it, and then Danny's going to drop some nutrition knowledge bombs. So, don't say anything bad about me, stand back there. He's going to do a brief kind of overview of some stuff, some what to do, what not to do, and then open it up for a big ass Q&A. So, you know, Q&As are usually the best way to get this information out, because you get to go off on relevant tangents. You get to hear about the stuff you care about, and you get to listen to people actually talk about stuff that you're probably struggling with as well. So if you have a question, don't be shy to ask. Same goes for my stuff. I'm going to run you through the basics of it, and then if you do have a question on anything, just throw your hand up, throw a kettle at me, or just do whatever you want. So the way we're going to kick this off, and I am working off notes because I'll ramble if I don't, is we'll talk about how the body works, really briefly and non-scientifically, different types of training, the programming we do, and how we do it, and then why we do it and how we plan it. So basically how the training programs are arrived at and the whole purpose and point of them. Okay? Sweet. So number one, your body is really stupid, okay? It just does what you tell it to do. And if it's not doing the right thing, that's probably your fault for putting the wrong stuff in, the wrong inputs through training, or the wrong food. So at the base level, you're a skeleton, you're a series of bones covered in muscles. Skeleton, the bones do absolutely fuck all. Sooner or later. The skeleton doesn't do anything, it just supports your body. The muscles then act on the skeleton to move it. So if I want to move my hand to my face, I've got to use a muscle to pull my bone and slap myself, okay? So at a very base level, this is about teaching your muscles what to do, okay? And your muscles function off of sensory inputs from your brain. So, your muscles don't really know weight, they just know tension. So a lot of the time you can manipulate different training variables by not using heavier weights, just by going slower, or by not letting them recover as much, so you're stressing them more and putting more tension on them. So the biggest mistake you can make is just forcing the weights around and thinking, oh, I'm lifting more weights, this is great. It's not about the weight, it's about the tension you place in muscle in the correct area at the correct time for the correct purpose, okay? So, when I talk to all of you about anything in here, I'm always talking about strength. At a base level, strength is your ability to pick something up, to exert force against an external object, or to move your own body around. So, you do that by teaching your body how to do it. So I always talk about strength as a skill. It's your ability to, you know, learn how to do a new skill. It's about learning how to pick the weight up, it's about learning how to do it efficiently. It's not just about beating yourself into the ground over and over again and hoping the right thing happens. So it's about putting the right stimulus in to pull the right result out. It's like playing a musical instrument, right? You don't learn how to play guitar by playing for 2.5, 3 hours on your first day, playing until your fingers bleed, and then not picking it up again for 2 weeks because you're so tired. Okay, that'd be really stupid. Nobody would try to do that. It's the exact same when you're lifting. So if you're beating yourself into the ground every training session and you're not able to move for like 2 weeks afterwards, you've done too much. So the whole purpose is to repeat the movements, repeat the skills without ever getting too fatigued or so tired that you can't train properly or adequately. Okay, and that's why most of you only train between 2 and 4 times a week. So because it's a learning process, beginners then, when you start in the gym, you always see better results faster. Okay, so you don't really see any new muscle growth in the first couple of weeks or even the first couple of months. It's mostly just about learning the skills. So in your body, you have your central nervous system and your peripheral nervous system. Your peripheral nervous system, obviously on the periphery, fingers, hands, running back to your spine, senses movement, shoots it up to your brain analyzes it, responds, and then your PNS does the work again, okay, broadly speaking. So the way you acquire movement skill is by practicing the movement correctly and by gradually adding a little bit more on. So if you want to get better at something, let's say squatting, which I know quite a few of you have a hard on for at the moment, one of the best ways to do it is just do a few squats every couple of days. Make them a little bit heavier each time, load them a bit more, and then just gradually keep pushing it up. You never want to be to the point of fatigue or failure, because when that happens, then injuries start to occur. So beginners do that quite quickly because they're learning movements. Okay, you've all seen beginner gains, this really big, infamous thing within the general gym population. When somebody starts, they see gains really quickly, and then you've just got to dig in and fight for every little bit you can get after that. As you become more advanced, so intermediate to advanced level, you start to see the need for real structural adaptation. And that looks like stronger bones, stronger connective tissue, so ligaments and tendons, and also stronger and bigger muscles. So you've got to remember your skeleton, your bones, they aren't just this freaking solid piece of unliving tissue. Like, they're constantly being broken down and put back together by your body. If you don't have enough calcium and calories to support it and all the other stuff that goes into it, obviously you're breaking it down at a faster rate than you can repair it, and you start to look at bone injuries, osteoporosis and the likes starts to occur. If instead you put the right stuff in, you train in the right way, and you force your bones to get bigger and stronger, you become healthier in the long term, okay? So think about, like, let's say for most of you it's probably your parents' generation. If they fall and a bone breaks and there's no one at home, a lot of the time that's death. Like, if you fall over and you can't get back up, if you're not strong enough to move your leg into a position to get back up or push yourself up off the ground or resist that initial impact or injury, that is a very real serious chance of you dying because you can't go for help. So the whole purpose of this is to bulletproof you against old age, to make the bones and connective tissue stronger so that long term you stand a better chance of being fully functioning. Okay, does that make sense? I'm only 4 now, okay, I'm going to have to start flying. So, strength training is basically about getting stronger. It's about moving maximum loads and staying kind of away from too much fatigue. Traditional bodybuilding training is about doing as much as possible to force as much blood into the muscle as possible, so getting a pump. Okay, so strength training is about getting strong, bodybuilding training is about getting a pump and trying to get bigger. Again, strength training then increases bone, muscle, tendon, and connective tissue strength and density, so you're building a full structural adaptive change where you're stronger and bigger. Whereas a lot of the time bodybuilding training, so like kind of going in and doing like 10 sets of 10, I know we did some this morning, let's go. 10 sets of 10, that sort of stuff is more about increasing the energy storage within the muscle. And that kind of makes sense. If you're doing a lot of energy intensive work, your muscles and bodies are going to adapt by pulling more energy storage in. So it's a sarcoplasmic response, so the fuel sources around your muscles increase. The only problem with that is when you stop doing stuff that requires that energy, the fuel source goes away. So you shrink very quickly. So you go from looking great to looking shit in a couple of months because you stop training. Strength training, it doesn't happen. Strength training requires real structural adaptable change. You have to actually grow physically bigger and stronger. And I'm not talking about like getting jacked, but your muscles have got to become more dense. Your bones and connective tissue has got to become stronger. And in that process, it's much slower to go away. So, if you want to look good and functional, strength training. Okay, you're all here because you strength train, so that's nailed because it's for the camera. And if you want to be bloated and useless, bodybuilding is a really good way to do that. Okay. You know, if you want to look good in a t-shirt in the club, bodybuilding's cool. But if you want to actually live a long, fruitful life, getting strong really helps. So, also that's the strength training side of things. The next one is, let's talk really briefly about cardio. So, kind of two camps: high intensity interval training, low intensity interval training. Low intensity, you've got marathon running, triathlon, all this sort of slow, long duration stuff. High intensity, you've got sprints, you've got intervals, you've got hill sprints, you've got all the Tabata stuff, and a lot of the stuff we're doing here with the conditioning circuits. Okay, so they both have their place. Okay, don't act and don't think they don't. They both have a purpose, they both have a reason to be done. But for the most part, you can get a lot of the gains doing high intensity interval training and only a little bit of the low intensity stuff. So most of the studies around the high intensity interval training shows that they kind of have a 4 to 6 week lifespan. So you've got a sort of a curve where the initial response is pretty fast to adapt, and then it just starts to taper off over time. And then all of a sudden, after 5 or 6 weeks, nothing's really happening anymore. Which is why we do most of that stuff for only a few weeks. I don't know if you've watched any of the cycles, but any time we've had any conditioning elements from they've only ever lasted between 4 and 6 weeks, whereas the strength cycles take a bit longer because they have a different requirement at the end because you're trying to generate structural change. So the low intensity stuff is still like super healthy from a heart health perspective. Okay, so something like 60% to 75% of your max heart rate, just getting out for a long walk or kind of a slow jog once, twice a week for 40 minutes to an hour, or whatever you're capable of at the moment, and just building that up over time. When you do it, your heart becomes a lot more resilient. It grows in size, and it's better at pumping blood, and the stroke volume of each beat is higher. So as a result, every time your heart pumps, more blood rushes around your body, it doesn't have to work as hard. So,
treadmills.
Treadmills? What about this?
Yeah, half the people wear treadmills.
Treadmills get you nowhere. Boom! Think about that one. Look, treadmills, and even jogging in general, like it's great if you enjoy it, and if you go out and you enjoy it and you clear your mind and you feel better after it, it's cool. But don't get yourself into thinking it's the way to get long-term change. Okay, it's not the way you become a fitter, healthier person for life. It's a good way to get a little bit fitter, lose a little bit of weight, but it's also a really good way to beat your knees, shins, ankles, and hips up. Okay, especially if you haven't done much before or you're starting from a very weak condition perspective. The thing you guys probably notice a lot with high intensity interval style training is that you get really good at it quite quickly, or you get much better at it, and then you leave it alone for a couple of months and you come back and it's absolutely miserable again, right? Yeah, okay. With that, you're kind of just getting better at what you have. So like you have a finite lung capacity, like an upper ceiling of your heart rate, your ability for your muscles to withstand lactation and that burn. And as you do it for a while, you get better at stopping all that stuff, so you become fitter in the short term. When you stop doing it, obviously then, you get better at what you do. If you stop doing it and you don't do it again, then you need to look back and retrain it. You can't just do 6 weeks of training and expect to hold that peak fitness level for the rest of your life. It's the same reason why all sports go through pre-seasons. Okay, those guys are elite athletes, and even they need to do some work to bring them back into standard all the time. So with the conditioning, it's not too hard to lose, but it's really, really easy to gain back. You've just got to spend a couple of weeks banging your head against the wall, and you're usually back at your previous levels. Then the next thing I just wanted to talk about really quickly was the SAIDS principle. So SAIDS, your specific adaptation to imposed demands. In other words, you get better at what you do. So if you spend a lot of time lifting really heavy weights for a low number of reps, you get better at it. If you spend a lot of time lifting medium weights for medium reps, you get better at it. If you spend a lot of time doing conditioning, you get better at it. When you change something, so if you go from low reps to high reps, your body shits the bed, it doesn't know what's just happened. Or if you go from conditioning to strength training, it's not as efficient at it anymore. Watch out there, dogs. Okay, it's your body's, what the hell did you just do to me, response to training and new movements. And you've probably noticed that after 2 or 3 weeks, like everything else, it goes away. Or it subsides. So again, you recover and you get better at doing what you're asking your body to do. So, that's a really quick overview of how the body works, and then we'll come back now as to how we program and why we program. So, as you probably all know by now, the emphasis is on getting strong first. Okay, that's the primary goal. Get better at lifting your own body weight, and get better at moving maximum loads on the barbell, dumbbell, and kettlebell. So, as we said already, increase bone, muscle, connective tissue, and tendon density. Okay, all important to make sure you're healthy and fit long term. Broadly speaking, you'll have seen this from most of our cycles. The quickest way to get stronger is to just do a bit more each week. So it's going to be your periodization, and the whole idea is, let's say you start here at 60%, the next week you go to 65, 70, and then you go to wherever you're looking to go. So you're stepping it up bit by bit, week by week. The last cycle we did just before Christmas, you got 3 weeks up, we came back a little bit, we took 3 weeks up, we came back a little bit, took 3 weeks up. It's simply impossible to just keep going and going and going and going and going and still move forwards. Okay, with the best intentions in the world, you can kill yourself in the gym every day for the next year, but you will not continue to progress for a year. Eventually your body's recovery capacity is just going to be outstripped. It's going to go, no, I need a break. You're going to start to feel sick, you'll get injured. Your body will force you to take that break if you don't take it for yourself. Okay? That's why the training is programmed in cycles. So, this all comes back to a guy called Milo Proton. I don't know if any of you know him. He was like a famous wrestler. And he was kind of the first real strongman strength athlete. He was the guy who got stronger by picking up a baby calf, and then every day picking it up a couple of times, as it grew, and eventually he had a bull that he was carrying around. Really, really, really well-known Greek mythology story. But that links back to SEDS again, so that's the idea of progressively overloading, or in a very straight line, picking up a little bit more each time, and as a result your body gets better at picking up a little bit more each time. It'll hit that upper ceiling eventually, and that's fine. When that happens, you just step back a little bit and shoot on. If you've been looking at the same thing for a long period of time, let's say maximum strength, so you're going to lift something up once, you'll need to change focus. And that's what happened at Christmas. We spent about 10 weeks focusing on getting stronger and on really pushing max strength up. And then we took 2 or 3 weeks over Christmas where everyone got fat and happy, and we just did some conditioning work. The reason for the conditioning work is then it's kind of feeding into the next cycle, but I'll explain that in a second. So, I've already said strength is practice, strength as a skill, so making sure you do the right stuff the right way repeatedly. You've seen in the current training cycle, 8 sets of 3 reps on the minute, or 10 sets of 3, 11 sets of 3, whatever the hell it is, with sub-max loads, bumping it up a little bit each week, just focusing on doing really good quality work, and a hell of a lot of it. So, let's say the last kind of, from say August/September up to today, the way the programming worked was for August, September, for those of you that were here, we did the skill work, we did some rest pause work, we did some conditioning work. The skill work was just about picking difficult movements, overhead squats, chin-ups and weighted chin-ups, ring dips, weighted ring dips and the likes, and just getting better at them. The reason for that is the high skill movements, the really challenging ones, are the ones that kind of globally feed into everything else. If you get better at pulling yourself over a bar, is lifting a dumbbell going to be up? Hell yeah. If you can jump up on those rings and stabilize yourself and do reps, is it going to be easier to stabilize a bench press or your shoulder if you need to grab somebody? Absolutely, it's pretty much the same thing. The same with the overhead squat. If you can put a weight as far away as possible from your center of gravity and squat down and get back up with it, your entire squat pattern is going to get better. And I know a good few of you mentioned how much looser you felt after doing it. You definitely have. The other thing about the overhead squat is because the weight's up here, you've got to have a tremendous degree of shoulder stability, because if you don't, it's just going to go. So you learn how to hold weight overhead and turn your shoulders on in the right manner. Then we did the long ass strength program for Christmas. It was like 10 weeks or whatever it was. And in it, we did 3 weeks up, a week deload, 3 weeks up, a week deload, 3 weeks up, a week deload, and then test week. The whole point being that the 3 weeks we were training, we were pushing really hard. Every rep or every set was to the limit. Like you were doing whatever it was, 80, 85, 90 for max reps. You were doing a drop back set with 60 or 70% for max reps. You're constantly pushing right to the edge. And that's cool, you can do that for 2 or 3 weeks, but then you need a break. Okay, so that's why that was structured that way. Trying to do that long term, you end up overtrained, demotivated, pissed off, tired, sick, ill, you look miserable, you don't want to train. Okay, that's not good. The conditioning bridge over Christmas then, Danny will probably talk a little bit more about that, but the whole purpose there was just get you stuck in. The next cycle is going to be quite difficult, so you have to get in and get your fitness levels back up, because despite doing really intense training for 10 weeks, it wasn't really something that would prepare you for the next cycle. So to get the most benefit out of what we're going to talk about next, you have to prep your body for it, and you prep it by doing conditioning work, by getting your work capacity back up again. The other side of things as well is when you're doing that conditioning work, when you're doing the really high rep, high intensity stuff, your body's forced to dump out glycogen stores. So the fuel source that lives in your muscle, it's got to dump that into the bloodstream to fuel activity and keep you moving. The really good part about that is when you're constantly emptying and refilling those, they become a lot better at actually being filled up. So when you eat junk food, there's going to be a slightly easier ability for your body to use that. Okay? I'm not saying eat junk food, I'm just saying over Christmas you're going to eat shit and you're going to eat junk. So the whole purpose was to limit the damage so far as possible. And I know quite a few of you came back saying you're only getting a couple of kilos, so good on this. So, where we go next? We're going to go back to last summer. So, last summer for you those who were here, you might remember doing stuff in the 6, 12 and 25 rep range. It's called German body composition. It's a really potent way to drop fat fast, get stronger, and if you eat support it, gain muscle. So it's paired upper and lower body exercises. So you'll be seeing a lot of examples of this. It'll be A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2, and C3, which is a little modification. So this will be upper, lower, up, low, and then core. So the whole idea being that as your upper body has busted its ass to do a set, your lower body's done very little work, so your lower body's fresh. So you jump in, do some lower body work, your upper body's recovering so you can go back again and keep working consistently, hard and heavy for kind of 45 to 50 minutes. When you do that, it's tough. Okay? It's actually quite miserable.
What's it do to your body?
Pardon?
What's it doing to your body? I know the blood's getting... Oh, sorry.
That's okay. It's good.
Alright.
So the whole idea is, because nothing is really fully recovering, but everything technically has to kind of recover, blood lactate levels shoot up, so you just feel burned. Okay? Your body's forced to pump blood everywhere. Okay? Your heart's going crazy, heart rate comes up as well. With elevated blood lactate levels, growth hormone levels go up, and as you carry on from that, fat loss is improved marginally. Okay, so you've got kind of the nutrition side of things to really look after this, and then you've got a little bit of in-gym work to support, okay? One thing like I need you to remember is when you're in the gym and when you're busting your ass, that's great, but it's about 2% of your week, okay? You're here for 2, 3, maybe 4 hours a week out of 160 hours. That's a lot of time to do damage. So, you know, just make sure you keep that in mind. Okay, a couple of gym sessions doesn't mean you can go and have a huge buffet. You can do it if you want, but you know, long term it's probably not the best option. So, that's kind of where we're going to go for the next 6 weeks. The reason why we've got paired upper and lower things is because your body kind of, and I'm off script now, so you know, your body can do like, let's say 4 main patterns. So it can push stuff away, so your hand moves away from your shoulder in a vertical pattern, in a horizontal pattern. It can pull stuff in, so your hand moves to your chest, your hand moves to your shoulder. You've got knee dominant movements like squats, and then you've got hip dominant movements like deadlifts, and then you've got a whole lot of core stuff as well. But the purpose of that is trying to make sure none of those patterns get ignored, and making sure everything gets adequate attention to ensure balanced, healthy body. For 99% of you who work at a desk or who sit down all day, you sit in this closed position with your chest rounded. Hips lock up, glutes turn off, chest is overly tight, and then your back gets weak. Then, you know, you get knee pain, you get hip pain, you get shoulder pain, you go, oh, I'm getting old. You're not getting old, you're just not moving. Okay? A lot of the time, it's reversible, okay? You don't stop moving and get old, you get old because you stop moving. Okay, if you don't explore range of motion for a long period of time, it's not going to be there. Again, specific adaptation to impose demands. If you don't ask your body to do something, it's not going to do it. You know, realistically, when was the last time, again, we'll go to your parents, when was the last time anyone's like parents or older siblings reached fully overhead? Probably rarely. When was the, and I did this with Mum a couple of weeks ago and she looked at me like a fucking idiot. But yeah, jump. I was like, when was the last time you jumped? And she was like, what do you mean? I was like, when was the last time you took both feet off the ground at the same time? And she looked at me and I went, you know, this. Okay, jumping. And she jumped. And she went, it was like a sack of shit hitting the ground. And that's just, like, it's a small example, but if you think about that on a larger context, what does a stumble look like? So, when you jump, you land, you absorb force. A stumble is it's the exact same pattern. You're landing, you're absorbing force. If you don't know how to absorb that force properly, you're probably going to keep going and fall over. Or even worse, you're going to damage your knee or ankle. So, by not exploring movements and by not doing stuff, you don't protect yourself against stuff that's going to come up, and I guarantee it will come up. Like, every older person I know has fallen at some point and hurt themselves. some worse than others. Sarah's, she's not here, but Sarah's grandmother fell a while ago and hurt herself. It happens everywhere, okay? It's not unusual, and that's why I'm saying, you know, not knowing how to do this stuff now, not putting the steps in place to injury-proof yourself when you're older is really just setting yourself up for failure. Okay, is that fair enough? Okay, cool. I don't know how I got there, but tangents. So, yeah, so, like it needs analysis. Like how are the programs written? Okay, why are they structured the way they're structured? I've kind of actually half covered this. So we all kind of have, again, the same movement pattern. So your ability to push, pull, do leg stuff, do knee stuff, do hip stuff. So for the most part, everyone's needs are quite similar. Okay, everyone needs to get stronger, they need to move better. They need to have a stronger core to stabilize their spine better. They need to get fitter so that they can handle everyday demands better. The challenge within this is then finding a way that everybody gets the intended benefit within the context of a training cycle. So let's say, really simple, the easiest way to think about this is like a push-up.